The findings of our comprehensive, thorough, and independent investigation, coupled with the medical examiner's determination that Mr. Gray's death was a homicide, which we received today, has led us to believe that we have probable cause to file criminal charges.
That came earlier today, announcing the charges will be filed against 6 Baltimore police officers in the death of 25-year-old Freddie Gray. People around the city of Baltimore continue to protest, but they are now calming down and waiting to see what the next step will be. They waited for this one for what some people believe was too long a time. Let's welcome in MidPoint, political commentator and author of the book Hand to Mouth, Living in Bootstrap America, Linda Tirado. And also welcome the president of the M Network Branding and Strategy, Thom Mozloom. Linda, Thom, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here, Ed.
All right, Linda, I'm going to begin with you on this because now 6 cops, this is the prosecutor ruling the death is a homicide. I think what we have to look at here first is the timing. People were screaming for an immediate snap to judgment. I think personally, and many people agree with me, I've talked to in law enforcement and legal, that they did the right thing, they waited, they got it right at least, and now we have to take the next step. So I think that this was worth the wait and people need to now calm down. Would you agree?
You know, what's actually the interesting thing right now is that protesters are mostly celebrating a step towards justice. What we're actually seeing on the streets, from everything that anybody that's there is saying, is that we're actually seeing a ramping up of police forces. We're seeing more SWAT units brought in. We're seeing more people brought in from all over. And in a protest situation, it's very frequently so chaotic that it's hard to tell who the aggressors are. I've spent time in a few of those situations, and very frequently, you know, you're dealing with police officers. They're as human as the protesters are. And one wrong step by a police officer can frequently spark a lot of problems. So it's a little concerning to see them ramping up. What concerns me more is that they are not ceasing the constitutional violations of those citizens. The governor earlier suspended habeas for a day. They're still under a curfew. People can't get to work. So the problems that they're having are really of their own making at this point.
Thom, wouldn't you believe, though, that there at least is a reason to do all this? Because that city exploded, and there are a lot of cops that I've talked to already who say, wait a minute, you need to do this in a situation like this. We're not stopping anybody, but you've got to tamp this down again, because even though there has been an arrest, even though there has been a prosecution here, or at least charges been filed, you've got to keep people calm.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's more about keeping people calm, and it's about keeping people safe and keeping order in the city. So obviously the police do have to ramp up. They have to be prepared. They have to go gently like they have the last couple of nights. If you've been watching this thing unfold, you should be amazed at the police force in that city and how they've been handling this, how they've backed off and let people demonstrate in the streets until it gets to a point where they have to step in. I think the police have done a great job. I think most of the protesters have gone out of their way to keep it peaceful, although things have gotten violent from time to time, and that's when people step in. These charges had to happen. They had to happen just so that the city would feel like justice is moving in the right direction. Did it take too long? I think it took as long as it had to have the evidence together to actually put these charges in place, and I think that's another step in the right direction.
Linda, you had something to add?
I did. I think that when you have protesters that are actually having to form a line between police and protesters just to make sure that there's a buffer, we've got bigger problems than who started it. I would additionally say that when you're talking about how long it took to get done, the medical evidence is clear. These charges didn't have to be filed to calm the protesters. They had to be filed so that justice could be done.
No, but I think what I'm speaking to, though, is the time, though. I mean, everybody wanted this, and there were members of the media, and I've called them out by name here in the last couple of days. Chris Matthews, Chris Cuomo, Mika Brzezinski, who all said, we want it now. We've got to have it now. Where is it? Why aren't you doing it? It takes the time that it takes, but if it gets to the right decision, isn't that what we're looking for, Thom?
Well, I think I want to rewind a little bit, and to be clear, people standing in a way to protect the police lines, that didn't have to happen. That's optics. And the people on the ground on this are masters at optics. They've gone out of their way to give the cameras the right visuals so that this thing comes on TV and looks the right way for their cause.
Well, they're promoting it, though. There's
and
some
I'm
networks
totally
out there who are
okay
saying,
with that.
Gee, come watch the riots with us.
As a marketing guy, I'm totally okay with that, but I want to make sure that what we're seeing is a made-for-TV demonstration. It may not be an actual demonstration. Yes, justice will move, and the wheels of justice have to go the way that they have to go. But obviously, if no charges were filed, or you went much longer and they started dragging their feet, man, you would have a problem out there. So I want to make sure that we're looking at this the right way. Yes, there is the justice side. Obviously, there is a big problem with police violence, and we have to look at that.
But
there's a problem with
this
violence in the
ratings game.
neighborhoods. But what we're looking at in Baltimore is a made-for-TV demonstration designed to forward an agenda. And I'm not saying it's a bad agenda. I'm just saying it's staged.
20 seconds, Linda. Respond.
I would say that any demonstration ever, anywhere, is made for optics, specifically because you're trying to bring attention to a cause that's not getting enough attention already. That's entirely the point.
And I think part of the point here, too, is I think we've all got points in this here. My whole point is, look, it's a news event. Don't use it to crank up your ratings because you want to be sure that you show somebody, a photographer, getting a rock in the head, or one of your anchors turning around and saying, leave me alone, you such and such, such and such. That's all done for cameras. It's all done for theatrics. Unnecessary. There you go. Hang on, we're going to come back on the other side. Linda Tirado and Thom Mozloom. We have more to come right here on The Arena. Back to MidPoint, back inside The Arena. Political commentator, author of Hand to Mouth, living in Bootstrap America, Linda Tirado, and M Network Branding and Strategy President Thom Mozloom. Thom, I begin with you. Let's see if we can rip through a few things here. Tesla's going to put batteries into homes for $3,500 rather. It's a 10-kilowatt power wall. Is this, I mean, would you do this if you had a chance to put this into your house? Because I know a lot of people are skeptical it would last.
Well, as long as it doesn't burst into flames like the cars do, yes. All right, that's a cheap shot. I'm sorry.
It was a cheap shot, but it was a perfect shot. It needed to be taken.
Yes, obviously we need sources of energy for people to run their houses off of. The more people we can get off the grid, the better it will be for all. Not just for the environment, but from an economic standpoint as well. So yes, it's a great idea if it works. And if it doesn't work, well, you know, it's a terrible idea.
I got to tell you, though, Linda, I mean, if a lot of people can do it and it saves the money, why not? I mean, to get off the grid, because when you look at sometimes what you're being charged by the power companies, this has the makings of a little bit of a fight here.
Look, I'm from the Mountain West. We are like the kings of off the grid out here. But I think it's going to take, what, 3 or 4 of those to get through a normal power usage.
At least.
So you're talking about a $10,000 sticker cost up front. So, you know, it's great for people who can afford it, and it's probably a fairly good idea. I just like the name Tesla in general.
Okay, well, but you may like the name Tesla, but as Thom pointed out, you don't want it to explode on fire.
I really try to avoid explosion, yeah.
Which would be very bad. This one really just made us cringe here. Meat food, dating back to 2009, reportedly served to students in a Tennessee school district a 6-year-old pork roast that had been frozen and then thawed. I mean, this is just despicable to think, first of all, the educational system has got its problems in Georgia with teachers basically trying to line their pockets and cheating the kids, but now we're feeding them this? Come on, Linda, something like this has got to stop.
Listen, I am famously a food service worker for a long time, and I can tell you those people were not checking their stickers with regularity. You know, often school lunch programs are separate from the school district. They're contract workers. This definitely means everybody in that kitchen needs to go.
Well, what does it say about the school district, though, Linda? I mean, what does it say about the school district itself? Because the FDA is out here basically saying don't do this, but you've got schools doing this. They're trying to save money at the expense of the health of our kids.
It's almost as though privatizing every system that we could possibly get our hands into is generally a bad idea.
You know, I got to stop both of you for a second.
Okay, here
it
we
is
come.
horrible and it is heinous. It's terrible, there's
Mr.
no
Reason.
doubt. But we don't know what happened. I mean, listen, anytime
Thom,
you have
it's 6
actual
years old.
when you have human beings working anywhere, mistakes happen. This could have been a terrible but honest mistake. I would hate for you to call it gross malfeasance on a group of poor, defenseless children. Maybe it's just one imbecile who needs to get fired, or maybe the system that they operate under needs to get changed. Maybe the freezer needs to get cleaned out every once in a while.
Yeah,
I mean,
every once in a while.
Every
Every 6 years would be nice, Thom. That would be great.
Not even,
I dare you, I double dog dare both of you to go to work at a elementary school cafeteria. Linda, I'm sure you know the job. It's tough. There's a lot of stuff going on. Maybe we should look at what went wrong and find out what went wrong and see if it can be fixed before we start throwing people out the door.
All right, just briefly, hang on. I got two other things I have to get to here very briefly here. They're talking about PFCs now being in the pizza boxes that we have, Tom. All right, let's talk about human error, Mr. M. This in our pizza.
What does it taste like? This doesn't happen in Jersey, where I'm from.
So what, you're going to be the guy who says, well, it's a couple of PFCs, but boy, if it goes along with garlic, it's got to be good.
No, listen, this is the issue of not enough information for people who are putting this stuff out. If you give me the choice between a pizza box that costs $1 and a pizza box that costs $1.50, as the business owner, I'm taking the cheaper one every time.
Even if it has PFC.
However, once you inform me, then I probably make a different decision. I just think this is a situation in which, people need to be educated, and maybe this is one of the rare situations that I will say that maybe there needs to be a regulation put in place whereby these things are illegal.
I give you that. 45 seconds left. Hands up from everybody here on the panel who's going to see the Avengers this weekend. Okay, good. I'll do it. I'm the geek. Go ahead. Come on. It's a blockbuster. Don't you want to go? Linda, do you want to take your kids? Do you want to take anybody to see this? Is it making an impact at all?
Listen, I have been desperate to see the Avengers since I was about 12. Unfortunately, be traveling this weekend for work, so I might have to see it later.
But you will see it later, and you did see the first one.
Now that you've recommended it so highly, I'm absolutely, the first thing I'm going to do is go get a pizza box, take it with me to the theater.
With a 6-year-old with a 6-year-old pork roast in there as well, and get it too on the pizza. Well, Tom, you're going to see, you don't care?
Ed, I have 3 children, all under the age of 10. I will be dropping them off at your house to babysit, and then my wife and I will have a lovely date.
Tom, let your inner geek out.
Wait, you know what? You're right. I would never drop my kids off with you. Come to think of it, that's a bad idea.
Well, you could, but I'm just going to ask him to go get me pizza. That'll take care of that. Thom Mozloom, Linda Tirado, always a pleasure. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, Friday, the political punching bag. Did we say more? Of course not. It's coming up next, right here on MidPoint.